with you. Thank you. He's got lovely eyes.
I'm stunned. Did you see my very poor impression of the way you speak? And I was saying how sexy that whole Gladys thing was.
Do you like that?
Yes, and it's interesting when we were talking in the office about it. The girls were saying, "Oh, she was a real tough woman, and all the girls said, "No, she wasn't. She was lovely."
No, she was feisty.
Feisty, is that?
Yes, very feisty.
Is there a difference between feisty and battle axe?
Oh, I think so, don't you? Yes. Yes, of course there is.
Now, you've done, obviously, Heidi Hine, you've done some fabulous acting and worked with some fabulous people who we're going to get onto a little later in the show and hear about, hopefully. But you've actually done a couple of strange things too, haven't you? Yes?
Are we talking about Rodri?
Well, don't make up your own jokes at home. Let's see how this goes. Ladies and gentlemen, Spanish Archer!
I see that costume again.
Have a seat, my lovely. Have a seat, though.
I'll never forget when I had to wear that. They didn't take it in. I mean, the pantaloons came up to my chest.
Now then, we better explain, haven't we?
Yes.
You see, me, I'm Elbow. I am the Spanish Archer. And I used to do this talent show for live TV. And I did it for about 104 shows, actually, Ruth.
Yeah, we are.
104. And took a 3-week holiday. And I thought, who's going to take my place when I go on holiday? Ruthie comes in. Have a look at this. Just have a look at this. Just have a look at you in action.
I am the Spanish Archer. I'm not really, I'm his sister. Our parents didn't have much imagination. We have a wonderful talent show for you, where the winners get the prizes and the losers get... Well, we have tip-top talent on the show for you today. Mind you, they do it just by here.
Hey! By here.
I didn't know what I'd let myself in for. I'd never seen Spanish Archer. And I went to Canary Wharf one morning, about 9 o'clock in the morning, and they said, we've got 3 shows to do. I said, oh, really? He said, and there's the script. I said, oh, really? Well, I couldn't believe it. I won't tell you some of the things that we said on it. What was that about gracias?
What I used to say to the talent, I say, if you're good, if you're class, where do I shove my arrows?
That was it.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Is the answer. There we go.
And I had to, well, honestly, I don't know what they thought of me in Wales. I really don't.
So you'd be surprised how many people saw that show, Ruth.
I used to watch it. I'll tell you something. My daughter was up at the Liverpool Empire and as deputy general manager, my youngster, and I phoned her and I said, Laurie, I've just done this thing called Spanish Archer. She said, oh, Mum, she said, it's all right. 3 of my cleaners came in this morning and said, I saw your mother on television.
Oh, fabulous.
So one of your best bookings ever, you'd say?
One of my best, lovely boy. One of my best.
Well, we're going to continue now on the interview. One of the nice things about this whole get-up is that Rodri now has to stay in the kit for the rest of the interview.
Serve you right.
Yes, we're looking very good there too, Rodders. I think we need to talk about that later. So, a better booking at the moment. You've got a better booking at the moment, haven't you?
Yes, I'm doing an American play at the moment. It's quite interesting. It's about life is for living, actually, and not for just sort of moping about. And you know, it's a bit of all right. It's a comedy, a bit like a Woody Allen comedy, and it talks about things which sound very morbid, but they're not. And the way they're actually portrayed in the piece, they talk about breast cancer. It talks about somebody, a best friend dying of AIDS. It talks about when you have a bereavement in a family. And the message of the play is these have to all be actually put aside and get on with life, because it's your life and nobody else's, and nobody else can live it for you. It's very true, actually, isn't it? Yeah. There was that lady clapping over there. Yeah. And it's, thank you very much, because it is issues that tend to be shoved under carpets. And I think the more that we can talk about them and the more that we realise that life isn't as bad as all that, then I think then we're 3/4 of the way there, aren't we? No.
But you wouldn't want to go if you were feeling a bit low by the sound of things.
I think you do, because you come out with saying, gosh, I feel uplifted. This is what we've had from so many of the people that have seen it up and down the country. Incidentally, we've been doing a tour of this play. It's called The Surprise Party. Now, that sounds a very peculiar sort of title for a piece that deals with all these issues, The Surprise Party. But actually, it's not, because what actually happens is, in the course of the play, people come back, relatives that have deceased, and said, now listen here, hang on. This is for living. There's no rehearsal. You enjoy it. And that's what it's about. So it's a very uplifting piece as well.
Marvellous piece. And Matthew Kelly, great cast.
Yes, and Matthew Kelly's in it. Peter Duncan from Blue Peter. Tracy Charles used to be in Howard's Way. Very beautiful young lady. Louise Plowright, that was in Hot Shoe Shuffle. Jim Dunk, very fine
good time with that
American actor. And 2 wonderful veteran actors, Peter Byrne and Michael Medwin. They're wonderful, yes.
Let's go back to your childhood now, because you were born in Norfolk, weren't you? And then,
yes.
And then sort of moved to Wales
Yes, I was 3 weeks when I moved to Wales. My gran brought me up just outside Swansea, because my mother was a matron of a poor law institution. My father was a master of one. So I was born into a 2,000-bedded hospital. I was the matron's daughter. But it didn't mean to say that I was spoiled, because those days were very hard, and my grandmother had to look after me because my mum and dad didn't have any staff. So down I went to Wales, and thank goodness, because it gave me a lot of stability. But I had a very transitory upbringing because of that. I was put onto trains, literally with labels around me. You couldn't do that today to an 8-year-old, you know, but in my day, you could.
So you grew up pretty quickly then, you think?
I think so. I came into the business when I was 15 and swept the stage and made props.
And worked with some fabulous people,
yes.
but who've become very, very famous since.
Yes, I mean, I went to RADA when I was 16, and in my year alone, there was Roy Marsden, there was John Hurt, there was Tom Courtney, there was John Alderton. There, you know,
fabulous
people that have made wonderful careers for themselves.
As you did yourself.
Well, yes, and I must say, Linda LaPlante was in my year. And she was Linda Marchell then.
Heidi High must have changed your life.
Well, it didn't. It came along when I was 40. So to be called a vamp from the valleys at 40 didn't enter my ego. my children used to find it a bit odd, because there's no doubt about it that when you suddenly get overnight success, as they call it, I'd been in the business, you see, for a long, long time before, and I'd learned my craft.
Let's see
hopefully.
Can we see you at the craft?
Right.
Let's have a quick burst and see you at the craft now.
Hip, hip!
Now, don't forget, at 2:30 this afternoon, the Royal Marine Commando Gymnastic team will be making an exhibition of themselves on the sports field. Oh, how fit and smart they all are, with their great big Belgian muscles and white pith helmets with brass knobs on.
To say that the writing was absolutely marvellous. All you had to do was learn it and don't bump into the furniture. Because the writing was absolutely wonderful. It really was. So all you had to do was just play it, really.
And again, a great gang that you're working with.
Indeed. And of course, they've gone on to do other comedies on the television. But I didn't want to do that because I'd had this long time before in the business, and I really wanted to go back and do things that I would not be really allowed to do on television, because television is a certain amount of restriction. Once you've had a wonderful character like Gladys to play, then everybody, of course, wants to get on that bandwagon and cast you just as that sort of character. Well, I didn't want to do that, so I went back to doing some Shakespeare, and I went back to playing Americans and all that sort of thing. So I'm just about ready. Anybody looking, producer, I'm just about ready to come back.
Well, you're going to stay around with us. But for the time being, Ruth Madoc. Now then, for the first time, and possibly the only time,
let's hope so,
rhyming couplet with me, Elbow, V.
Do with this.
Well, I hope to goodness we don't have legal action. We're up to here. No, I don't think so. They're affectionate portraits and admiring portraits. Karen Brady, as you say, she's wonderful. I mean, she's not even 30 yet, and she's got beautiful long blonde hair and legs up to heaven. I mean, she's glorious, and yet she, my goodness, people
she's
don't cross
feisty.
her. She's very, very feisty.
And then there's... Do you recognise some of these battle axes in showbiz?
Well, I know one or two of them. But I wouldn't actually say, you see, you know, what is a battle axe? What are we defining as a battle axe? Somebody, that, as I say, that is feisty, that will stand up for herself in this modern day and age when we've had the vote. You know, I mean, you could have said that Emily Pankhurst and all her wonderful people that helped women to be established now, because when I look at what my mum had to go through to be a matron of a general hospital, I mean, then you're only talking of 50 years ago, and all the terrible things that they had to really endure, being laughed at because she was one of the first from the village that went, and she was going, you're going foreign, you're going to Northampton. Well, good heavens, I mean, you know, you don't get that these days. We're all much closer. And I think that to have the modern woman is not a battle axe. We just want to stand our ground.
But that's why...
That's right.
That's why I've redefined battle axe, and I'm not calling them a battle axe in the old-fashioned sense. No. And these women are wonderful. I mean, they're fabulous. It's a mark of honour from me to be in the book.
So wear that label with pride.
Yes. Battle axes don't back down. Whatever they choose, whatever ground they choose to fight, whether it's votes for women or whatever, they don't back down. They stand their ground. The other thing about the battle axe...
But it can sometimes be seen as damaging to the other half of the partnership, can't it? For instance, people said that it made Neil look weak when you were so strong.
And that's why I mean, I don't regret standing up for him 150%, and I'll do that till the end of my days. But I do realise that during the election, my perceived strength did damage him because the way the media presented it. I mean, I'm noisy and I'm an extrovert, and I am a bit bossy. And that's what he loves about me, for goodness sake. So he didn't mind.
There was one thing that I have to ask you. I was at home that Friday night, and Have I Got News for You came on. And you went on as a couple. I was watching that and I thought, do they know what they were doing? Are you glad you did that?
Yes, I think so. You go on to a show like that, obviously, knowing what's coming, and there was absolutely nothing that they could say that hadn't been said to us in all seriousness. I mean, it's a sort of joshing programme, and there was nothing that could come up.
They're cruel, though. They're very cruel.
Well, Mr. Hislop afterwards thought that we came off rather too well, and he didn't think he'd been nasty enough. I was very pleased to see, by the way, when I watched last Saturday, that they've now got my picture up on the backdrop. When Hislop was on last Saturday, there was a great big me grinning behind him, which I thought was quite fun. But no, we enjoyed it, and we've got a big sense of humour, both of us.
But at the
we
end,
can laugh at ourselves.
But at the end of the show, they said, "Oh, this is." I can't remember if you won or lost or whatever. They said, "Oh, this is for the winners, this is for losers." Oh, and how would you like your cash? Would you like it in a brown envelope? Did that not just cut you to the core?
No, because that was a joke. We know what the truth is. We know that the whole thing is rubbish, and that's what we're trying to do. Is Neil trying to clear his name on all that? But I hope the way we took that particular joke helped people to realise. I mean, if it had been true, for goodness sake, we would never have gone on the show. We'd never have done all that, and that would have cut to the quick.
I think people are changing their attitudes. I was watching the Radio 1, the thing on BBC 2 about Radio 1, history of Radio 1, and it came up that our tune.
I know, don't.
With you and Neil.
Left the country very early the next morning.
But it was good because it actually suddenly these two people who you only saw arguing in the press or stating and a politician who you never get close to anyway. Suddenly there was you talking about how you got to meet and the type of people you were, and I mean, for instance, you've done all kinds of stunts and daredevil things, and you're a keen sailor, and you went. In fact, I think we had some photographs somewhere. There we have a picture of the wedding. There you go. Now, look, I mean, that's not the scene that we've seen recently of the two of you, is it?
No, well, unfortunately, it was some time ago. But even that, well, you see, will be misinterpreted by some sections of the press because I'm a bit higher than Neil. I mean, the fact is that I'm in his arms, as it were, but you can see that being reproduced and the wrong push being put on it.
So where do you think you go from here? You've got the book. Politics isn't an option. What do you think's next for the two of you?
I can't really get used to the idea that there's the book sitting there. It's a bit like giving birth. I mean, until a few months ago, I was 100% employed as an MP's secretary, and I didn't have time to think, never mind sit down and write a book. If it sells, then I've got lots more in the pipeline. There's volume 2 for a start, but there ain't no point in writing number 2 if number 1 sits on the shelves and gets remaindered. So, but I hope people will like it as a Christmas book. It's the ideal present for the mother-in-law. Or the great aunt, or any forceful woman in anybody's life.
We have to stop the advert there, I'm afraid.
Oh!
You're getting very good at this, obviously, dealing with this. We're running very close up to the news now, but Ruth, briefly, do you admire her for making the stand she's made?
Absolutely. And I think that anybody has the courage of their convictions, you have to admire. And that's why I admire Christine. And also, she stuck by her guns and she stuck by her man. And I think that's most commendable.
Ladies and gentlemen, Christine Hamilton.
Well, Christine will be staying with us and Ruth will be staying with us. And Steve-O's got his quiz. But right now, it's time for the Channel 5 News.